Good afternoon, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and watching our after hours show and with Ryan from OptionsRobot. Before we get started, let's take a look at the shared disclaimer. Be aware that neither Market Chameleon, myself, Ryan, OptionsRobot are registered investment advisors or a broker dealer. If you're searching for investment advice, please reach out to a licensed professional. This show, as all our shows and webinars, are for informational purposes only concerning Market Chameleon tools and products. One last look at the disclaimer, and let's welcome Ryan Mastro from OptionsRobot to the show. How are you doing, Ryan?
Good. How are you?
Great. So what are we
How was the
looking at?
weekend?
Great. Weekends are always long and good.
No, the weekends are never long enough.
Yeah, that's true. When you're chasing 4 kids around, it is long.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's I should say when you're chasing 4 kids around, it's long enough.
Yeah. So what are we looking at today after hours?
So, a couple of things that have caught my eye. Obviously, we had a decent day today. I don't like the Bitcoin reversal that we had. That was not feeling too great. We had a great run started. I think that's, again, a little bit overbought in terms of, I think a lot of the stable coin names are overbought. Maybe there's a little rotation out of maybe the big name like Bitcoin moving into some of those stable coins that are still moving. So, ETHA was moving, your Ethereum was moving, XRP was up, your Solana was up. We had a decent day in the Qs and the semis, but nothing that we were really writing home about. Like it was great. IWM pulled back a little bit. So just trying to figure out where you want to be and what you want to do. I'll quickly show what we had talked about last week, because I think that's important. Google having a great day today. That's going to have earnings here on the 23rd. So I'm not sure if you can see that part of my screen. Do you see the Google chart?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So yeah, this is in the OptionsRobot. So this is just one. We had talked about this last Monday and said this could be a potential decent trade. So it was okay for the most part. We actually finished up on the week. But again, we had chopped our options off at the end of the week and didn't capture this move. So this was a great move today. I mean, it was a $4 or $5 move. So that was awesome. The other one we had was that ETHA, and this was just a home run ball. This thing just kept going and going and going. So we jumped into that one in class with you. And I think we just kind of sat there for maybe a day. And then once the Genius Act passed, that just went off the races. I still like this. I still think there's a lot of potential, maybe due for a little pullback. So we took our profits off on that one. We have some other services that will still have it, but slightly longer term oriented. And we're selling premium against that just because the implied volatility is a little bit up, kind of, I would say, neutral at this point. The other one we had was NVIDIA, and NVIDIA really didn't do much. We did take out our level, which was this high back in here. We only made a small gain on this one, got up to 174.25 and has pulled back a little bit here today. There was some tariff news on that. So we're just kind of waiting to see how that could start to look. Now, coming back to some of the unusual options, this is in Market Chameleon, unusual options activity. I think there's some really great candidates in here. Riot had a pretty good day. Unfortunately, that did pull back off a little bit on the day. So if you look at, let's say, our chart on that one, let's see, we go to like a 5-day. You can see we did have a little bit of a pullback here towards the end of the day here. So that's one I think we want to keep on our kind of radar, but probably not something that we're going to be looking to trade today. If you go back to that Ethereum, which is the iShares Ethereum Trust, again, good volume in that one. That still looks very interesting. If you look over at, again, maybe some of the other screeners for just your stocks and big volume, that's going to tend to pull up some of these bigger names. So one that caught my eye today was Amazon. And it's one amongst this big screener here. So Amazon, if you're coming into the charts and starting to look at that action, that closed relatively strong. So on the upper ends of the bands as this thing continued to move. So I think if we go over to OptionsRobot, we can look at a screen here for OptionsRobot, and you can see that chart finishing strong on the dailies. Again, I think this is going to be a blockbuster. No earnings in the way. We're moving at about $4 a day. So that's a pretty good clip. If we can get options that are, say, half the price, somewhere around $2, it may not be a bad idea. So we come over to positions. Let's go over to trade, and we can do our option chains. we can look at Amazon. That'd be the best move to do, Amazon. And that should pull up. And maybe I got to refresh here. This is a little bit stagnant. All right, so there's Amazon options. Okay, so this will go right to the at the monies, and you can see we're about $2.30 for those options. So now the question becomes, do you want to hold this for next week? Do you want to hold it into options? I'm sorry, hold it into earnings? Probably not. So I'd probably just consider buying this one or setting a trigger. So I'll do an entry bot, set a, again, I got to set that up for Amazon. And
Now, excuse me, Ryan. For those who are here for the first time for Market Chameleon, OptionRobot is a great new tool that Ryan and his partner Wayne have created, and it basically allows you to enter your trades, and then literally the robot, the algorithm, will manage them based on. And correct me if I say anything wrong, Ryan. Will enter them and adjust them for all the inputs that you put into the trade. And you whatever broke he has to be either Schwab,
Tradier, or a PACA
at this point. So
yeah, we're adding Interactive Brokers, Tasty Trade, TradeStation, all going to be in the mix. So again, the idea is no one really wants to move their money. So, we looked at this as a great tool. We use it every day. We give it to our subscribers, right? And again, the idea is that trying to make it as easy as possible and as fast as possible, do what they want to do. If you want to stay and watch your trades, that's fine. That works. If you want to look for more opportunities, again, we use tools like Market Chameleon for analytics. OptionsRobot does have charts, but it doesn't have a lot of the analytics that, nowhere near what a Market Chameleon has. Their depth and historical data is just phenomenal. So we rely on companies like that to really push that through. So just a quick walkthrough on something like this. This would be an entry bot. I'll use the high of the day, something like I think it was 229.67. But if I use something like 229.70 and say I want to add an option. So the idea here is trying to make this as fast and easy as possible. So this is automatically default to the at the monies. So if I want to buy that option, it's going to open. What expiration do I want? I can use the 230s, and then I can talk about my execution. I'd probably use. We created this price slicer, which I think you got introduced to last week. I don't mind the default. I mean, I may speed this up a little bit, but the idea of the price slicer is if you want to work the bid-ask spread, and you can change this to starting all the way on the bid and moving it up to the offer, or you just kind of want to start on the mid. And you and I know as former market makers on the floor, most of the time you're not going to get filled unless you're mid or better if you're trying to buy something. So I usually start at the mid. I'll do something like maybe 5 or 7 price slices. That's the difference of how many times you want it to trigger, or how many times you want to splice it in here. And the 5 seconds is just the delay from when it goes from one to the next to the next. So in total, in 35 seconds, I should have an order fill on this. So if I hit create on that creates a theoretical position because obviously the market's closed. I'm set and ready to go for tomorrow. If it starts to move, then I want to pick something that's going to work for me in my favor of a template. Now, again, we can set this up, but the idea here is, okay, we have a theoretical position, and I can then go use a template to say, what's my trading plan once I get in this, right? Now, again, you don't have this on any other broker because they don't do this. No other brokers give you the ability to say, do this trade and then do this, do this. If they do, you have to go in and build it. What we've done in OptionsRobot is I can create a template. So like every $3, I can roll up 2 times and then exit. I can create my own. This is by every $2. I want to roll up 1 time and exit. Since we're moving on a $4 ATR, I'd probably use something like this one. If I move up after $2, I can lock something in. And if I move up another $2, I want to sell the trade. So that's 1 day. That's 1 full ATR. Now, you may not trigger in 1 day. It may take a couple of days for that to happen, but this would be interesting in terms of that. So how's this look? If I were to get into that option, again, above my entry bot level of 229.70, I would be in my 230 calls. I would then roll up after $2. Going to roll up to probably like the 232s or the closest option there. And then if after another $2, if it goes up in terms of the stock price, I would get out of the trade in terms of exiting the trade. So that will give me some nice little profit on that. So does that make sense to you? I know I went through a little fast, but I just want to make sure I'm coming through loud and clear.
It totally makes sense to me, Ryan, and everyone on the chat right now seems to be in tune with you.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, if we do have a chat, I'd love to hear other ideas, other, stuff that people are looking at. So if people want to chime in, and if they have something that's interesting, we'll gladly take a look at that through not only a Market Chameleon's eyes, but then on an Options Robot eyes, and even maybe put in a trade idea if you like it. So the other one, if we come back over to our screener, let me get rid of that one. The one that caught my eye, and I caught this in I believe our stock screener. No, I think I did this one here. Sorry, stocks. And I was looking at through the volume and just trying to look at different bigger names that are everybody may have an eyeball on. And I was looking at Taiwan Semi today, and again, the chart started to look like it was failing. So I was looking at this. Yeah, we had a great run with earnings. This is all the earnings pop, but we're starting to fade back down, kind of finished pretty weak on the day. So let's go over to let's look at that in Options Robot. And you can see on the chart with a little more clarity on the candles, the big pop on earnings, and we've just been fading, and it doesn't really look great. So this is one I think would typically be on the upper ends, kind of like NVIDIA, kind of like your AVGO. We also had ASML that was really looking weak today, but that's a very high price stock. So I kind of like Taiwan Semi, that if we continue to fade here, this could look pretty good for tomorrow. So something like this, trigger wise, going to be a little difficult because you really don't have much. We finished pretty low on the day. We closed at 238.71, and that was the low. So finishing on the low of the day, maybe you want to go over and use something like the open from, what's that? That's the 16th of July. So that open there was 236.40. We get down below there, that could be a good trigger level. So again, this is one I'll come over to my entry bot and say in Taiwan Semi that I want to trade less than. We're going to play this to the downside. And I think I said the open on that one, 236.40. So let's use that level, 236.40.4. So again, this is going to be a put trade. Some of you may not like puts, but that's okay. So we're going to look, and because I'm playing, and again, this is a cool little thing about this, about saving time, because I said less than, it automatically going to assume that I'm trading a put. So I'm going to buy to open a put, and it's going to say, here's your at the money strike. I may not want that because I'm trading, roughly below 236. I may want to say something like 237, or maybe even an out of the money 235. So if I'm going to do that, I may want to then say, let's do a quick trade. Again, because I chose quick versus default the last time, this says five times I'm going to slice this, and I'm going to look for 3. So I'm going to buy my option at the mid. I'm going to start at the mid, and then it's going to work my way up to the ultimately to a market price. So if there's no volume in there, I'll end up going to the best fill I can get on terms of the market. So I can create that one. Now, again, the one thing I'll go back to, I'm going to stop this for 1 second and look at my chart again on Taiwan. And if I go back to Taiwan Semi, let me just add in my indicator over here. I'm on a different screen. So true range. And what that tells me is what this is moving on average. And that's saying roughly 5, I got to look a little bit closer, and that color's got to change, 580. So it's moving pretty aggressive. So that's almost $6. So maybe we want to use, let me go back to my position, and I'll go back to Taiwan Semi. And what we can do in here is add our bots, right? So this one is, let's see, I'm not going to do a 30%. Let's go over to puts. Well, you know what? Let's just create one. Let's do that real quick, because I don't see anything I really like. So we're going to create a bot. So I'm going to say if the stock value goes, let's do the option value. Say the option, now let's use the stock value. We'll do that. We'll say if we go down, let's do the acquisition price. So we'll move by the acquisition price, and we'll say $3. Just like our other one, we did $2 on. So if we did $3 in this one, I want to consider a roll. and I'm going to roll down. So let's roll our option down, and we're going to roll that to the same expiration. And I just want to roll that to specific strike. And I'm going to say from the 235s, I'll roll down to the 232s, right? So I'll still be somewhat in the money or close to the at the monies on those. And then I'm going to do let's just do a midpoint on that so I can kind of work the spread a little bit there. All right, so that's my first one. Now, if I want to add another one, I can do an either or I can do an and, right? So if I wanted to say, if it goes against me, then I could put a level in for that. I'm just going to be very optimistic at the moment and say, I think this is going to fall right down. So I'm going to do my nested trade, which is the next trade after this, which you can't do in most other systems. So this is basically saying after that other one occurs, I'm in a 232 put. I want to do the same thing and say, if this drops down, let's just say stock value. If this drops down less than 230, what do I want to do? I want to exit the trade, right? So if it moves down $5, I'm going to say I want to get out, and I'm going to do a quick trade on this. And I'm going to say I'm going to hit, because I am working the bid, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to work the bid here, right? So I'm going to look to start at the mid, and I'm going to work my way down to the bid. So I'm going to click create on that. So then you can see my nested trades. I start with the 235s. I roll down to the 232s. Once it gets down to the below 230, I get out of the trade. So this allows you to do that. Now, if I want to create my own trades, I can come, or my own templates, I can come down to my settings and I can create my own custom settings for that. We have a bunch that are already built in here. I can modify them and change them and save them. So that is the power of using an options robot. The other thing is, if you like the price slices and you want to change from a default quick or slow, you can save your defaults there as well. So again, a couple little things in there that we can set up to help trade in that sense. So any questions or stocks that have come in, Will?
Nothing's popped up yet, Ryan.
Okay, beautiful. So again, in terms of the big picture, I don't really go into options and trade options. So we're going into earnings season. We're going to have Microsoft. We're going to have, this week we're going to have Google and Tesla. So that's going to be on Wednesday night. So, that's something I think you'd want to shy away from unless you really feel comfortable about being aggressive with trading those options. We know, and I can show you if we go down to Tesla here and we can zoom in on this, we should be able to look at the implied volatility in terms of, let's see, this is our current. We can go down to our options and we can look at, we're down here to volatility. We can look at the implied volatility on this. And we can see that, again, this is, that's the historical. And I can click over here to the structure. We're not doing that bad in terms of our current structure here, right? In terms of where we are, right? It's a little bit inflated of the historical graph. Here's what we're looking at in terms of our options. So this is in Tesla, right? Are we in an extreme area of the implied volatility? Well, again, I think that's to be determined in terms of what you really think is going to happen in the stock, right? I'm not a big fan of playing the earnings and knowing that historically we have a pretty volatile stock around earnings when this does occur. So, given that we are, have had a great run, I'd probably shy away from this one. That's going to happen on Wednesday, the 23rd. So that to me is one. Again, you can play it. That's up to you. I don't like to put them in because the implied volatility drops on these right after earnings is very, very risky on something like that. So let's take one more.
We did have a request for you to look at a stock.
Sure.
Robert. Symbols RGTI.
Oh, Rigetti.
Rigetti.
So, yeah, Rigetti is one I have been watching for actually since last December. So we've been in this for a while now. We caught the run on the way up from down.
Let me ask you, Ryan. What triggered you first watching it?
It was unusual option order flow.
All right.
Yeah. So this was one, and these all started to heat up. You have QBTS, you have QUBT, you have Quantscape, you have IONQ, all in that space. And
are they in the AI space? What space?
They're in the quantum space.
All right. Quantum
yeah,
computing.
so these all really, really started to pick up pace. We started to see order flow come into these. And again, from a sector perspective, Rigetti was one of those ones that looked really, really awesome. So we had jumped in way back when, And unfortunately, we also caught the drop on this. So we jumped into, again, this is, back in December, we had jumped into a January of 2026 option. We're still in that, still trading it. And what we've been doing is just selling premium along the way here. So this has been a great longer term trade. Every time it kind of gets up, we're just selling premium and riding the wave. Now this is up again. We've got burned on the premium in the short term. But again, I don't mind this trade. For something like this, I'd probably say now that you pulled back after this run, I don't want to get in on a trade that's rolling over a little bit. I'd probably want to say back to the upside if it takes out something like the high, which was on Friday. That high there was 1739. This still has to fill this gap, right? So I think there's still a little bit of gap right in here. And I do feel like if you looked at some of the other names here, if you go over to something like a QUBT, similar type of chart, or a QBTS, that's been pretty awesome. I like that one maybe a little bit better because it's at that resistance already, and it's proven that it took out that January high. So there's a little bit more action in this one, still roughly the same price, but maybe a little bit more positive in terms of the big picture. And then you could look at something like a IONQ, right? Decent, right? It's not too bad in terms of the levels, maybe taking out that high or even waiting on that one. And then you have something like Quantscape, which I think has done very, very well. This one's, been off to the races. I think there's been some positive news in this one that they did some deals. So I think that's really, really helped. So maybe I'd probably, rather than, again, we could look at Rigetti, and I'm happy to look at both. But let's say Rigetti, again, I may look at this one in a longer term trade and just use the longer term, like something I'm in January. I don't mind, the implied volatility is not bad. I believe we are going into earnings on this one, and that would be my only caveat. So that's on August 7th is earnings. So when you look at the earnings in here, you either want to stay in there or you want to play something beforehand. That's going to be up to you how you want to play it. I would probably opt to say, you know what, I'm okay with a trade for a longer term. And again, maybe just saying I'd probably use something like a January, right? So if I scroll out to January, let's see, we want to look at, that's January way out here. And the at the monies are the 16s. Like I said, you may want to wait a little bit higher. Now, the problem with doing that, obviously more time, more extrinsic value, right? That decay that can happen against you. But if you give yourself a little bit of time, what we want to probably analyze is how these look across, each section. So what we can do here is we can actually minimize these. So I'm just going to go right to the at the monies, move my strikes down. So we're at like 415 there. Maybe in November, we can see we're at 350. If we go up a little more, maybe September, you're at a 250. So I think from a personal preference, it's about how much money you want to put into a position, how big do you want to be, right? In terms of, and how much time do you think you really need? The other side of that is, how do you feel about the implied volatilities as you're looking at these going out in time? So here you're looking at a 94 vol. Here you're looking at, let me scroll back down, you're at like a 93 vol. So they're still not bad. Oh, I don't want to scroll down to the last one. We are at a 90 vol. So maybe you do want to play January, right? Just saying, I don't mind holding for the longer term. We can still set up a plan. So I can do that in a couple different ways. We can just go in and buy it, and I can put a price in, or I can wait. I really like the entry bots because what it gives me is the ability to kind of set it and forget it, that if it goes above, great. I'm happy that it's getting up there and staying above. I think we said 17, which was this high. Let's zoom in a little bit on that high. That high there was 1739. So let's just say something like 1745. It's got to show me something a little bit above. Add an option. We can go down to January. We'll look at that one. And we can play, because we're trading 17, maybe we play the 17 strike. We get above there. And how do we want to trade that? Probably, I'd probably want to, I'm in really no rush. It's a January one. So maybe I want to work the bid-ask spread a little bit. Maybe I'll do it like, I don't know, maybe 8 slices. I'll start kind of Yeah, maybe I'll start in the bid and I'll start and just work my way up, just see where I can get to. Maybe I can get a better price on that. So, I mean, that's pretty wide. That's actually not that bad. It's really, really tight on that all the way out there. 365 to, oh, I'm sorry, that's the S is 375. So that's still not bad. So you click create. And again, maybe you want to look towards rolling at critical levels. So let's look at that on the chart. So critical levels for me on this one would probably be something like the highs back here, right? I'd want to get through and maybe roll my option. If I'm in the 17s, maybe if it gets up to something like 20, I would consider rolling up, right? So that's one level. And then what's that high there? That's 21. Let's call that 2150. So let's do some rolls on those. So I'll go back to my trade. I'll go to my positions over here. I'll find Rigetti. I'll click on that, pull that up. I'm going to add, create a bot. And I'm going to say if the stock value gets above our first level was say 20, right? And what I want to do then is I want to roll my option up. That didn't take my 20. There we go. I want to roll my option up and I'm going to stay in the same expiration. So I want to stay in January and I'm just going to roll that up to, I could say the at the monies. I'll say it specifically and say the 20s, right? So I want to get into the 20s on that and I'll hit create. Now that builds, I have a theoretical position here, but goes above 1745. I have my first roll in here. I can add another roll. I think we said 2150. So all I have to do is click stock value greater than 2150. And this is using that 20 option. So that's already built in for you. And if I want to roll again, all I'm going to say is roll my option up, stay in that same expiration. And I want to roll up to a specific strike. I can go up to, maybe I want to roll out of the money this time. I'll roll to the 22s and I'll click create. Now this, because I'm in an option, longer term option, and I'm doing this, I actually have there's a gap override in this system. So if you want to create the gap override, what that's going to do is, for example, if I have positive news in this, I don't want my first roll to occur. I want to go to my second roll. Right. So I automatically want to roll up to the 22s. I don't want to roll to the 20s. So this will, if that's activated and I'm above my level, it's automatically, or if I'm above my second level, which is 2150, it's automatically going to roll me up. So it keeps you out of trouble versus me going from the 20s then to the 22s and dealing with all that bid-ask spread. So it's a great little tool on that, and I'm glad that popped up for us on there. So that, again, gap override is activated. It gives you a little bit of a tutorial there on what that is and how that happens. Again, if you do see something that becomes overwhelming and you think, oh my God, there's news in, let's say QUBT or QBTS, and you're in those, you're like, oh my God, this is going to move the whole market. First thing I would do was come over to and pause all my bots, right? All I want to do is pause them. Let the dust settle, and then I can go and re-engage, and I can unlock these, or I can go and unlock specific ones. I can also, let's say I haven't triggered and it's bad news, I would just want to pause everything. So I can pause my entry bots as well. So the reason, once you get into automation, it really does give you a lot of flexibility in terms of being able to help manage those trades.
Ryan, quick question. Do
Yes,
you
sir.
have something we haven't discussed? Is there an app you can download on your phone for OptionsRobot, where if you're outside of your
So here's the problem
computer?
with that. We do have an app, and the reason it's not available right now is you have to be linked and considered a broker dealer. So we're trying to appeal that we're connecting to the broker dealers. But that's where we are fighting with Apple in terms of the moment. We have one completely built out. It's ready to go. It's actually awesome. I love it.
You're saying because it's an app, actually Apple requires any stock anything that they think is an execution platform for stock, even though you're acting as an intermediary for the broker dealer.
You have to be the broker dealer.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, and we are not a broker dealer. We are just a software as a service.
The only reason I asked that is for that pause button, because you're on the, not to actually trade from it, but to actually just hit the pause.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I can't tell you how many times I've seen news and I just go in and you can do that for all of your trades. So if I'm in positions over in here and I'm looking at, again, any one of these, I can click pause real quick on everything. Right. So that to me is just a huge thing when you're looking at, different trades, different opportunities, and you really start to see, like, if I have a bunch of semis and I want to go in and pause them, or I see, again, positive news come out, I can go click pause, so I don't have my options, bots that are going to roll me up. I want to let this thing just run. Then I can go cancel whatever I want to cancel, and allows me to kind of stay and still have all the management there built in.
Well, that's awesome. Well, listen, we're through the 5 o'clock hour, so we got to go to the final few seconds. But Robert did say awesome tool. Can you just tell them how they access the tool? How does someone sign in? How do they register?
Yeah,
What's
so
the
you
process?
can go to OptionsRobot.com. There's a bunch of links that will basically take you to the app where you can register, sign up. For anyone that wants to sign up and look at the connecting to their broker, you can sign up and jump in and do a free trial for 14 days. For Market Chameleon, what we're going to do is provide a 50% discount for anybody that wants to sign up. I would recommend the pro level service. And if you like it, I would start with a trial and then sign up with a coupon. So we'll put the coupon out there, make it available for the next couple of weeks here. So you want to sign up, take a trial, but we'll just put in Chameleon as the coupon code, and that'll knock the price down by 50%. So as long as you're a member, then it'll keep that active for you at that price. So we'll really lock it in a good price for you. And I want to do it for you guys as a favor to all your subscribers. So hopefully that's something that people will enjoy.
Perfect. And I'll put that link in the webinar notes on the YouTube channel. Anything else you want to put in there for this week, Ryan, you email over. Thanks so much, Ryan. Thanks, Chameleons. Thanks, Robert. Thanks for joining and asking the questions.
One quick thing, Will, what I'll do is I'll send over some links, and everything that we talked about today, the different ideas in terms of Amazon, I think we did Rigetti and we did Taiwan Semi, I'll make them live so you can actually go back to the system and look at. So I'll send out a link, or I'll link them. I think we did it last time in the YouTube, right? I put them underneath there. So you guys can just go click on them, look at them, and kind of look it over. So you kind of have some notes, and you can pick apart the different things that we did. So you can check them out from there.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Ryan. And we'll see you next Monday.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Something we're going to try to do every Monday, everybody. So great job, Ryan. We will see you next week, my friend.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good week.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being part of our after hours show. Check out OptionsRobot for sure. It can be a very helpful tool. Everyone have a great, safe trading day. Dimitri and I are actually off tomorrow. We will be back live on Wednesday. Everyone have a great, safe evening and a great start to the trading day tomorrow. Bye.